This week, our guest is Roni Edwards, the founder of Pamodzi Creatives.
I'm going to create a space for myself where I'm never going to have somebody control what I do and how I do it. So I set up an organisation that looked to facilitate dance and creative collaborations between different cultures. Dance Africa was what it was called. And then from there, that evolved to Pamodzi. I've always built what I do from that what makes you happy, spend more time there place. Find a way to pay the rent but spend time in that happy place. Chase that passion and see what happens. And I just really believe you are a product of what you say about yourself and what you say about your space. We haven't always been kind to ourselves and to others based on being pitched up against each other as women, and I think that's a really toxic space. And I just wondered if there's a way we could change the narrative a little bit and talk about who inspires us, who we want to elevate beyond ourselves.
So Roni, so we made it. We finally got around to it. And
Is it Alec or Alex?
Alec.
Alec.
Yeah.
Alec, sorry.
With the C. I always tell people that with
good.
the C. And okay, cool. So Roni, thank you for being a guest on our show.
It's an honour to be here. I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity. Bow down.
Fine. But okay, cool. We'll jump straight in. So on this show, we've got a little tradition.
Uh-huh.
I could give you a great introduction, but I always like to give it over to the guest.
Oh.
So, in a nutshell, who is Roni Edwards?
Where's Roni Edwards? Oh, the woman, the myth. No, I'm joking. So I am a proud mummy of 2 little lion cubs. One of them's birthday's today.
Happy birthday.
I've kept a 17-year-old alive for 17 years. I'm so proud of myself. So I've got a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old boy, and actually also I'm about to be a stepmom to an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 children now. So 3 children, and my passion is my work. So I'm a dance practitioner, working in primary schools. I basically have developed a dance module based around mental health and well-being and movement. So I deliver that in schools. But my other passion is celebrating inspirational stories in the city, similar to you really. And we run, as an organisation, something called the Inspirational Women of Portsmouth Awards, amongst other things. But yes, mum first. I'm a mum first, about to be a wife.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so alright, so cool, we'll jump in on some of that stuff in a bit, but let's take us all the way back then.
Yeah.
So, where were you born? Were you Portsmouth?
Well, I'm a bit of a mongrel.
Okay.
So I'm Zambian born.
Okay.
Born in Zambia, and my mother's Zambian, but I'm adopted by an English person. So my adopted father's from Chesterfield, which is up north. Mm-hmm. So I've had this really rich, amazing opportunity to kind of have 2 different cultures and growing up with 2 different cultures. So I went to school in both places, but moved here permanently, as in England, about 30 odd years ago.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
No, fair enough. And so you said you were adopted there.
Mm-hmm.
How?
My dad, for his bad fortune and my good fortune, just happened to work for an organisation called the Overseas Development Agency, and randomly, my mum's brother, I think, had an accident, and he stopped to help her, and help my mum's brother, and they met, and the rest is history. So I had my biological mum, and he adopted me. So yeah, they met and fell in love. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So
Yeah.
you came over to Chesterfield. So how was it growing up in Zambia for you then?
Oh, best childhood. I was basically I wasn't a very feminine, dainty girl. I was quite a rough, roll around, getting into trouble if he can do it, so can I kind of boy. And that time of my upbringing was a very outdoor life, and you basically disappeared in the morning and only came back when you were thirsty or hungry because you're out playing. So it's the best childhood I could have hoped for. Sadly, I can't have the same childhood for my children because it's a really different culture in that sense. But yeah, I loved growing up in Zambia.
Yeah, what's the conditions like in Zambia? Is it, you know,
At the moment, or
back then and now even? Yeah.
it's not known for its economic strength. I think we're very beautiful people. We're very facilitating and welcoming. Incidentally, we're one of about 3 countries maybe in Africa that have never had civil war, because we just go, let's just have a beer instead. Let's talk about it over a beer. So I'm really proud to come from a country that can have that reputation. But as a result, I don't think economically we are as strong as we can be. So it's a really difficult life there. I'm in awe of people who can make a living at the moment in the circumstances that they've got. You don't get to experience this in England, but the harsh reality is climate change is real. So in sub-Saharan Africa especially, there's been really long periods of drought, which has had an impact on the environment and the economy. So we now, as I say I live here, but in Zambia you now are faced with 3 hours a day of electricity, and that's it, for long, indefinite periods of time, because there's just not enough electricity, because there's not enough rain to generate the power to get the electricity. So it's crazy out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Really difficult life out there. But people hustle it. People survive in the most amazing extreme climates. I couldn't. I need my Wi-Fi all the time. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so you touched on there, briefly that your kids can't have the same childhood as you did.
No, but that, which is fine. We make the choices that we make. I made the choice to settle down with somebody from this country, and I think there's a lot to be said and a lot to be celebrated about this culture, right, and this experience. But I just had a very different upbringing. I had a very outdoors, and also culturally we were at a different place. We weren't immersed in technology in the same way at all. We weren't immersed at all. So you kind of interacted and built relationships in very different ways. So that my kids don't have that in the same way. But we do what we can with what we have and try and protect as much of their upbringing as possible. So yeah, it's quite extreme.
Fair enough. I mean, just to sort of close that bit then, you said that you loved your childhood. And
I adored it, yeah.
But you didn't have a lot of technology, you had access to the outdoors. How would you say, in comparison to kids growing up here, how would you say the comparison is? And yeah,
it's really hard to make a comparison in a fair way, because there's a lot to be said and celebrated for both experiences, right? So for me, I'm really grateful that we didn't have technology and that we survived through building relationships. We had to interact with people more, and we had to learn things physically more that we don't really do that much these days. I can't keep up with the pace of progress and technology that my kids can. I basically banned my youngest, my 12-year-old, did something that got him into trouble in school. So I confiscated his technology and banned them from different gaming platforms. And all the while, I knew it was like almost pointless, because all the while I knew he would be able to get around things, because he's that sharp and that quick. So my 12-year-old basically has one up on me on so many levels, because they are so ingrained and embedded in that space. So my challenge, I feel, as a parent, is to, and this is, my experience as opposed to, I'm not speaking for every parent out there, but my challenge is to try and find ways that he can grow and prosper outside his phone and outside his gaming experience, because otherwise, if we left them to it, they would live in that space. But I'm because of my practice as a dance practitioner, I work in schools a lot, and I'm seeing it firsthand how young people they don't know how to interact with each other the same way. They don't really know how to build relationship and engage. And anxiety kicks in so much quicker, and is nurtured in hyphens so much longer these days. Whereas when I was a kid, I'm of that generation where you're like, "Are you anxious? Suck it up, buttercup." We didn't get to be nurtured and held in the same way, so there's pros and cons for that. So for me, I feel like my challenge is to find ways of getting my kids out in a space where they are growing in ways beyond that. Yeah, that's my challenge anyway. But,
okay. Well, no, fair enough. Okay, so you came over to Chesterfield.
Well, no, yeah, I did in and out of Chesterfield. Yeah, I don't consider it a home as much, because it was where my father's father lived, and we would go there for periods of time. But yeah, for me, I feel like Africa was more my home. Yeah, but yes, sorry, I interrupted you. I came over to Chesterfield.
No, fair enough. No, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you never considered it home?
No.
When did you consider the UK as home?
I think it's when I moved here on my own. So when I was 16 in a temper tantrum, I backchat the like terrible thing of backchatting my mum. She threw a plate at me because she was so cross at me and told me to get out of her house. So they made the decision to extricate me from the country, and I ended up kind of moving in with a relative in London. So for me, that big extreme move and that transition to England, a few years after that, I feel like I was starting to build my life here, and I still call myself Zambian, but I've now been in England more than I've been in Zambia, so I'm a bit of a mongrel like that.
I hear the mongrel statement.
Yeah.
So, okay, but how old were you when you actually sort of first went to Chesterfield? How old were you then?
Oh, I would have been 5 or 6.
Okay,
maybe.
early years.
Yeah.
So between 5 and 6. Did you go to school? Did you get homeschooled? How was that?
Went to school mainly in England, in Zambia. Really privileged to have gone to very good schools, private schools, as it were, and then I went to school a little bit in Southampton as well. I kind of went on an exchange program for a period of time. So yeah, it was public school. School interacting with people as opposed to homeschooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is the school system in Zambia compared to the UK?
There's a lot more respect for teachers.
Really?
Yes. In Zambia, I feel like the education system, you have to pay regardless. Like even public schools, you have to pay, and there's a lot more. Education is treated. The gift of education is treated as such, more of a gift, and the people who are part of the education system are treated with a little bit more respect and reverence. Whereas here, I think It's not.
Okay.
The end. So yeah, I think there's just different attitudes to the concept of education, and what you're entitled to. I think as a citizen, and I think there is no social safety net in Zambia. You don't get the NHS, you don't get free school meals. So I think people, and life is so much more vulnerable and fragile. You get people. My sister lives in Zambia now. She's like, I can't. We've got a running. Am I allowed to say a joke about this? Got a running joke like, so whose funeral are you going to this week? Because life is so much more fragile. So I think there's a little bit more of a sense of gratitude, if I may say, for education and for opportunity. Like you take it, you run with it, as opposed to it being there and you take it if you feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, slightly different approach, I'd say.
Okay. So, from 5 to 16, going to school, come over to 16, living in London.
For a little bit, before I started my A-levels, yeah.
Okay.
So I got... So bless. My mum was like, I will banish you to Camden. I don't know what Camden was. And I got there and I was like, so this is my punishment? Because Camden was awesome.
Yeah.
So especially for because I went to like a really strict boarding school, like really, really strict boarding school between the ages of 12 and 16. And it was like, you're allowed 4 items of clothing and that's it. And they will inspect you. You can have 2 shoes and that's it, And then you get to Camden, it's like abundance everywhere and like no one's telling you what time to get home and, all of these things. So yeah, it was not the punishment they thought it would be. So I was in Camden for a while and then I went to Chichester College.
Yeah.
Because that would take accommodation for A-levels. And not a lot of places did that. And do you know the strangest thing happened when we got to Chichester is that we had all said goodbye to each other when we did our A-levels at boarding school, and people went all over the world. And I didn't think I'd see a lot of people that I went to school with again, because I was like, I've just gone to this random place called Chichester. And we turned up on the first day and there was 4 of us who met up again from the same boarding school, and we hadn't realised we were going to do that. So that was really magical. Of all the places we could have gone around the world, we all ended up in Chichester. So that was lovely. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How was boarding school for you?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah, I think it gave me grit. It made me very independent, and it taught me gratitude as well. Like I say, it was quite religious, which I reacted against for a long time, but in terms of values, it was really foundational. I'm one of my best friends, I'm best friends with her still now. She's amazing. I call her my Olivia Pope. Have you ever watched Scandal?
No.
She's so beautiful and so put together and just very successful. But she and I were prefects at the same time, so in our last couple of years. And we were I was at this event about 5 years ago. So this is like a good 25 odd years after I've been to the school. And I bumped into somebody who went to school, the same boarding school after me, about 10, 15 years after me. So I was like, oh, I went to the same boarding school. And she's like, oh, yeah, it was a great boarding school. Except for... I was quite traumatised because in the dorm that I was in, we were really scared of Black Moses, right? And I was like, Black Moses? She said, yeah, Black Moses was terrifying. And it turned out that while Caroline and I were prefects, we were a tiny bit on the lazy side. So to help the young ones get to sleep, so we were prefects, we were like in year form 5, from 4 and 5, and our prefects were in form 1 and 2 that we oversaw, and the young people were also in form 1 and 2, so I think 10 to 12 year olds. So we were like, guys, if you don't get to bed by 9 o'clock, Black Moses is going to come round, and he's really scary. He'll take you away and kidnap you. And that really worked. It turns out Black Moses has evolved. So we started this thing that, sorry Chingelo, 20 years later is now an urban myth.
No way.
Sorry. I felt really awkward. I did eventually fess up to it. I was like, I'm so sorry, that was us. We started that. Because the school I went to, one of the magical reasons, one of the reasons why it was quite magical was it was founded. I started going to it in the year it was founded. So yeah, it was quite an amazing time to start in a school that had just started. So we laid the grounds in a lot of ways for how it would evolve.
Amazing. Gone through school, gone through college. What was the next step for you then?
Yeah. But because I went to boarding school and I was quite independent and quite self-sufficient, it was quite seamless in a lot of ways.
Oh, as in after college, where did you find yourself?
Ended up in Portsmouth.
Okay, so you went from Chichester to Portsmouth.
Chichester to Portsmouth, yeah.
What brought you to Portsmouth?
I basically had a choice between Portsmouth and Brighton because they were the college universities that did what I wanted to do at the time, which was politics and international relations. And I wasn't clever enough for Brighton. So here we are. So I moved over for that particular course. I was quite,
How was that course for you? How was the uni experience as well for you?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I was such a blagger. It was the best course for me because I was like, no but kind of student and very 11th hour. But it was just a brilliant time. I don't think you have the same kind of university experience that we would have done. I think there was a lot. It just felt like a very rich, crazy time, but we were also very good at being able to knuckle down and get stuff done. Yeah, no, I adored it. It's really funny seeing some of my old lecturers still, who live locally. I still feel really naughty when I see them. So you have flashbacks of not quite handing in that dissertation or essay or whatever. So yeah, that was a lovely time.
How would you mean there then, as in terms of the experience? Then it was more of a rich experience in comparison to now.
Did I use the word rich? It was sorry, that's doing now a disservice. I think you got a lot for your money, maybe, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
In terms of what you got out of the experience. And I mean, it's not fair for me to comment on every single student's experience now, but the young people I've spoken to now said how frustrating, especially since lockdown. Oh my giddy aunt! It's just like what it's just hard for them to justify going through the process of getting a degree vis-a-vis what opportunities are out there now. So yeah, I think it's unfortunate that sometimes it's not always worth doing the university thing. No. I'm saying to my son, do you want to maybe just get an apprenticeship? Save yourself 30 grand? Because it's not cheap, is it? It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not. They're even
so
increasing
when did you go to uni here?
So I did, but I graduated in 2019 and my undergrad. And then I came back and did a master's during the last phases of lockdown. So it was like 2020, 2021.
Okay, what was your master's in?
International marketing.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I did that. But yeah, criminology and psychology from 2015.
Did you? Okay, that was the same
2019.
Milden campus? Oh, somewhere else?
Ish. We were there, but we were also at the Park building. We were also at the St George's building.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We were in a few buildings. And then the Richmond building for the big lectures, because it was a massive course. Yeah. But okay, that was the uni experience. Yeah, Portsmouth is a decent uni. It's a decent uni, good uni city.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you did international relations and politics.
Yeah.
But then where did that take you?
So basically, to my mum's dismay, I I've always been fascinated with politics and international relations, and you know, this last week has been. Do you know the worst thing I did? Am I allowed to talk politics?
Yeah.
The worst thing I did last weekend was I thought to myself, I've got a chill weekend, not doing much. I've never watched The Handmaid's Tale. I thought to myself. So I watched a few Handmaid's Tale episodes, and then the election happened on Monday. so I'm a little bit in the space of trying not to spiral of the thought of how textbook everything is. But anyway, I basically had a little bit of a curveball thrown at me in that in the last year of politics course, I was living with a dancer. I've always loved dance. I've always loved dance. And she'd said to me, could you come with me to this audition because I'm really nervous. So I went with her to this audition and just to hang out, and ended up auditioning as well, and got into this crew accidentally, and the rest basically is history. So I just got the performing dancing bug. So eventually fessed up to my parents that maybe I was going to do that instead, because the trajectory was always that I would do this course and then segue into the Foreign Office, and then maybe move back to Africa and be like a really perfect African daughter. But I found the arts instead. So ended up working in dance industry, community development, dance and community development. I worked for an organisation called Southeast Dance Agency, and then fell pregnant. So then founded an organisation, got made redundant, founded an organisation that was basically, at that stage I thought to myself, I'm going to create a space for myself where I'm never going to have somebody control what I do and how I do it, because there's nothing worse, Alec, you will never experience this thankfully, than walking into job interviews looking visibly pregnant, knowing you are more than capable of doing this job, but you're desperate because you've just been made redundant, but you're pregnant, and they're not going to take you on. So I was like, I'm never going to have anyone control me like that. I need to be the captain of my own ship. So I set up an organisation that basically looked to facilitate dance and creative collaborations between different cultures. Dance Africa was what it was called. And then from there, that evolved to Pamodzi, as it is now.
Okay. So that whole process there was you sort of choosing your passion.
For sure.
Over the scripted path, you can say?
For sure.
How was that for you? Was that easy? Was that an easy process? Or did you always, or was that really quite resistant?
Well, I mean, like, at the time, it was quite liberating to be in this place where you've had a lot of the decision taken from you. You've been made redundant. You're about to have a baby. You can't get more blank page than that. So it's like it was this opportunity to create and build something that was, for me, I chose to see it as an opportunity to create and build something that was about my passions and my vocation. And I've always built what I do from that, what makes you happy, spend more time there place. Find a way to pay the rent, but spend time in that happy place. And so to me, that was quite a liberating space. And at the time, I had my first husband was really supportive, and was just kind of held fort for us while I kind of figured things out and had the baby and, all of that kind of journey. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that time, because I think I could have gone one of two ways. I could have kind of gone, right, okay, I need that 9 to 5. I'm just going to 9 to 5 it and passion is something that you think about when you're older, and you reflect on how you could have been passionate about something, or just go for it, just chase that passion and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I did what I had to do to pay the rent, but still always nurtured that passionate place. And I think I'd die if you told me I had to just always go back to 9 to 5 and play the 9 to 5 game. You see why people are angry and resentful because we're walking around bottling the things that we're passionate about, some of us, and that can't be good for you. Ulcers. Yeah.
Stress.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful.
Okay, cool. And that's inspiring in itself.
Oh.
So why? Or so cool. It became Pamodzi, but it started off as Dance Africa.
Yeah, so it's Dance Africa to begin with. That was where I was at. I love the thought of, because I grew up in different cultures, and I love dance. I love the thought of working with disadvantaged young people in Africa and putting them in a space where they were collaborating with people from a different culture and given equal status and platform. So that was the heart of it. It's like, here's a few street children, here's some young people from England, collaborate, create a performance. And we did that for about 6 years.
So how did that work then? Did you bring them over, or did
we got young people to come over to Zambia. It was always like 2 or 3 young people that would fly out at a particular time when there was a festival that we collaborated with. So there was this citywide festival called Barefoot Festival, and I hustled it that we would get like a performance gig as part of that festival as Dance Africa. And I partnered up with a street children's organisation, and we would basically go over, do an intensive rehearsal for about a week, and then perform at the end of that week. So it was great. And the young people from England would always kind of have one perception of what it is to work with a street child and come out the other side kind of fully appreciating that street child as a performer and as an equal and as a co-collaborator. It was the most amazing experience. Yeah. And we also raised money for an education program for street children as part of that.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So how did it segue into then you telling or showcasing inspirational stories?
So that was still kind of celebrating, like collaborating and celebrating those inspirational stories, because we would kind of have a club night at the Wedge of Dreams that would kind of showcase the stuff we did. And then I started feeling passionate about the refugee crisis at the time. I don't know if you remember, there was a young... I kind of ignored it or shrugged my shoulders through it until this little toddler got washed ashore in Canada, and he made the headline news all over. There was just this image of this dead toddler on a Canadian beach front. I think it was Canada. And that stopped me in my tracks, because the first time I saw that image, it was my son's doppelganger, basically. It looked like it could have been my son at the time, my second child. And that was really sobering and embarrassing that I'd ignored this whole thing until now. It felt like this faraway thing that was unfortunate. But the more you thought about it, the more you looked into it, we all have blood on our hands, you know. We were all complicit in different ways to what was happening in Syria. The end. You know. So I felt like it was an apology for my attitude. I felt like as a dance practitioner, I wanted to get those stories heard. So we did this project where we collected stories from local refugee and asylum seekers, and we created some movement around them. So it's verbatim stories, movement, and a bit of art around what they did. And I produced this piece called "What Are You Doing Here, Mate?", where 4 dancers would reenact 4 stories, and we had an artist who was doing a live painting of one of the refugees called John Bosco. If you go to Summerstown Hub, his painting's still there. So it's one of the big paintings that was from our performance piece. Okay. And I just felt from that I wanted to keep that celebrating inspirational stories, but also, you know, that challenge people to think about things in society that are unjust. And I wanted to kind of keep that stream going, and felt really passionately about how women were being spoken to and spoken about, not spoken to necessarily, spoken about, women from Portsmouth at the time. I started noticing that actually we didn't have a very positive attitude about ourselves. And if people were asked to describe Portsmouth, their go-to was football, what do you call them? Football rioter, football... Hooligans. I was like, what is that word? I was thinking about in Zambia, Zambian, football hooligans. Like, and I just really, really, really believe you are a product of what you say about yourself and what you say about your space. So I was kind of curious to see if we could flip the script really and posture ourselves in a way that celebrated and others, and what would that look like if we kind of created this space. And that's how the awards have evolved. But alongside that, I still do the dance delivery. So we're kind of looking to celebrate inspirational stories across communities and schools, but the awards is what we're known for the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So just on that then, so you said before women didn't really speak of themselves highly, or...
So just a caveat there, women that in my space that I was interacting with.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably some awesome things going on over there and over there, but in the space that I was interacting in, yeah, I think social media has got a lot to answer for in the way we perceive ourselves. Historically, maybe. I think we're a bit more savvy now, but we haven't always been kind to ourselves and to others based on being pitched up against each other as women. And I think that's a really toxic space. And I just wondered if there's a way we could change the narrative a little bit and talk about who inspires us, who we want to elevate beyond ourselves. Because we can be very good at either being depreciating, is that right, as women?
Yeah.
Or so we're really good at either making ourselves small or making ourselves big at the expense of someone else. Like, is there a halfway between that? Where we fill space but we also elevate someone else at the same time.
Okay. So how long have these inspirational awards been running?
We are coming up to our 7th year.
Okay.
Yeah, 7th year.
And how would you say, when you first started them, how were they received?
I was blown away. So I was like, the first year we were like, okay, maybe we'll just like do this like nomination thing and just see if anyone like puts any forms in. And then that kind of was really, you know, people really wanted to come forward and celebrate each other. And then we're like, oh, we'll have an award event, I guess, to kind of showcase these amazing inspirational stories. And I remember at the time launching our first award event, which was always based around International Women's Day. And I remember literally being like, okay, so I put down payment on this venue and there's definitely 20 people coming. I think my mum can make it. Being like, is anyone going to get the heart of what I'm trying to do here, or is it going to land on its arse? And if it lands on its arse, at least we're celebrating someone as I land on my arse. But I'm so grateful that a lot of people did get the heart of what I was trying to put across. And I've had some amazing people come alongside me and help tidy the whole thing up. And we all work as volunteers as well, which I think gives it something different in terms of its intention and heart. Is that it's coming from a place of passion, that whole wanting to elevate. And amazingly, we're coming into our 7th year. I'm barely keeping up with it all. It's like a train that I can't quite keep up with, but it's a passion.
So do you think being volunteered in comparison to being paid, do you think you can still have passion being paid, or do you think you have more as a volunteer?
Being volunteered as opposed to being paid, do I have more passion for it, do you think?
Yeah, because I believe if you're paid for something you're passionate about, does it not just elevate that passion more? Does it not encourage you to do more? Not as opposed, but also you've got on the other hand, being a volunteer, you're passionate about it, but you're not getting paid. I know it's that intrinsic or whatever feeling. Yeah. But the two, I just want to sort of just talk about that really.
Yeah, I guess it depends, again, on your value system, right? And I've been called up on maybe there being an imbalance in how much I invest in this vis-a-vis my actual paid job. But no, I think I've always wanted it to, for this particular initiative, I've always wanted it to have a serving heart. Because yes, that manifests itself in what you do. It's not to say we don't pay people at all. There's some things that it would do the person being asked to do a disservice to not. So the person that takes the nominations and processes them, that's labour of love. That's a lot of work. So we do pay specific people in specific roles. But me as a founder, and the board that I asked to come alongside me, we generally don't get paid for this bit, no. And for me personally, I think that's based on the value of having it as a servant-hearted initiative. There's elements, like I say, where we would pay the hosts for the night, because there's something in that if it's your bread and butter, and this is one of your regular gigs, then we would pay you. But I think there's something. It's not perfect. It's not right. And I've been told by a lot of people that actually there should be some sort of remuneration for it, and I'm open to that discussion. But as it stands now, our main focus is making it as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. So we always try and get at least between 80 and 100 tickets out to people who can't afford to get there. And the model as it is now is that the sponsorship covers that, and other bolt-on things that we do, bolt-on events. If there was a paid gig, we would have to totally rearrange the model structure. Anyone who wants to help me do that, great, thank you. I can pay more people. But actually, as it stands now, the model of it, we're looking to cover our costs and make it as accessible as possible, and have bolt-on events. So it's not just the award event. Actually, there's something called Kambani, which is a storytelling initiative that happens off the back of it for young people as well that we do. There's a tea party that we subsidise to celebrate everyone nominated. All of that has to be paid for. And we pay as many people as we can to be part of that process. But if I was to pay myself for this gig, there'd be no money left because of the hours that we put in, so that's where the servant-heartedness comes in. And people don't have to get involved, and people who come on board, they know, right, I'm going to give 5 hours a month to this initiative, and they're happy with that so far.
Interesting. I know,
but change the model for me if you think. But that's kind of where my focus is that the value needs to be about servant-heartedness and volunteering your time.
Okay. Awesome.
It pays for meetings. If I've got a meeting with a potential sponsor and I need to buy them a coffee, I'm not paying for that coffee. The company's paying for that coffee. So so I'm not, but anyway, that's me. That's where I'm at.
Oh no, fair enough. And okay, so it got really well accepted or received. It got really well received when you first did it. How has it grown over those 6-7 years?
We had to grow space-wise.
Okay.
So we were at this lovely venue called the Royal Maritime Club.
Yeah.
But capacity-wise, I think it was 200 it would take. And we'd never had enough room. So we're now at the Guild Hall, which is incredible. So the capacity there is 380 or 400 or thereabouts. And we're comfortably there. So it's grown in that sense. It's always had a slightly dramatic, creative element because Roni. So that every year feels like a pressure to try and top.
Really?
So because it's always very dramatic.
Okay.
So that grows every year, but I think somebody came up to me this year, and they're like, "Could you just calm down with all this drama and the awards?" Because I never wanted to create an award event that's just about an award recipient is. Like, let's have a party. Let's do creative things. Let's celebrate locally the artists that are around. So we've had fashion shows, we've had singers, we've had drama, we've had dance of different cultures. That's how we roll. Because I don't want it to be just an award event. I want it to be a celebration of the city and the arts in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Is it women only that are invited? Allowed to
no.
Okay, great.
No. We are all about allies. I very much support the Parenting Network, who have, I don't know if you know about the Parenting Network.
Yeah.
They have a celebration of International Men's Day, and I think there's something very significant about having International Men's Day being acknowledged by an organisation that runs International Women's Day, because I strongly believe we should have allies across genders completely. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the next plan? What is the... All right, so first of all, do you plan? Do you plan ahead for the growth of it?
I'm learning how to plan ahead. It's always been this passion project that I can't go, okay, let's try it again. So I'm having some lovely people come alongside me and be like, so what does this look like in 5 years? And I'll go, oh, you're about to burn yourself out, Roni. Can we think about that? So my mentor, who's Steph Nalnotowski, from Shaping Portsmouth.
Oh yeah,
he's given me that challenge. He said, look, what does this look like for you in 5 years? If you ask some people on the board, like my dear friend Debbie, she's like, so O2 then, yeah? O2 in 5 years, O2 Arena. And I'm like, So the answer is I don't know, because it's just been this passion that I'm struggling to keep up with myself. This amazing movement that people seem to be embracing. And every year I approach it with that spirit. I kind of say, here you go, Portsmouth, this is what I feel needs to happen in terms of celebrating women in the city. But if you don't want it next year, that's fine. Like, I'm as that open-handed with it. I'd be really happy if I'd be at peace, because I don't feel precious about it if the whole community said, actually, let's make this the last one next year, because it needs to be wanted by the city. And if the city doesn't want it, and the city feels like it's not reflecting where it wants to go, hey, it's fine. I'll go over there and do some more dance, or I hold it loosely. Yeah. So I don't know what it looks like in 5 years. That's not a very good answer, is it?
No.
I should be more sophisticated.
No,
but I'm not.
No.
That's like literally like I'm like.
No,
but my mentors are trying to help me walk that through and figure that out.
Okay. Events though, they're tricky, aren't they? I think there's a lot that goes into them that people don't see.
Oh my giddy aunt.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Every year, funny enough, like the night before an event, I go, I'm not doing this again. Because it's a thankless, stressful exercise, and I'm really precious about, if my name's on it, it needs to be like this. but there's a lot of energy that has to go in like this. So I'm learning slowly how to not be precious about things, little things, but quality is important to me, especially when it's honouring the lollipop lady, right, alongside the businesswoman. You better deliver and make that lollipop lady feel just as special. And how do we do that? How do we navigate all that? Yeah.
How do you deal with people then who haven't got the same energy and don't approach tasks with the same oomph as you?
Good question. I've been really fortunate in that I seem to be surrounded by people who do have the same energy, but it takes me a long time to invite somebody on the board, because there's scoping out, there's listening to spirit, there's watching that happens before. A lot of people will get really passionate about stuff that you do and say, I want to be involved, and actually they're just feeling passionate about the experience in that moment, but don't always have the capacity. So I only ever invite somebody to be on the board if they say that consistently. And I've learned how to coach more people in the organisation. I've learned how to manage and coach more effectively, because sometimes it'll be that you are feeling passionate about something, but and you want to do it, but you don't have the tools to do it, or you don't have the confidence to do it, or you feel like you need permissioning. So it's just kind of finding a way to walk alongside somebody, giving them specific outcomes and tasks, and enabling them as possible, and then checking in on them when they need it. Yeah, read a lot of books.
Fair.
So yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Would you say the power of reading has influenced your leadership style more than lived experience,
sure.
though?
Oh, not more than lived experience, no. I think there needs to be a combination.
And how would you say, 50-60, 60-40? 60-40?
I think more my lived experience and being thrown in the deep end. So being in situations where you're like, oh, are you looking to me for leadership? Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna get my notepad out. I've been thrown in the deep end so many times in my life where I didn't ask to be put in this place of authority or leadership, but somehow I was. So I had to kind of learn skills in terms of getting the best out of people as quick on the ground, like dirt running. But what I felt like in the last few years, it's fine to do that with 1 or 2 people, right? But when there's 12 people on the board, you kind of have to really be effective in knowing everyone's, the full dynamic of people's needs, and appreciating how people will communicate and articulate that in different ways, and trying to figure out how to best enable them through things. So some of that needs, some reading. Stephen Bartlett, what'd you say, babes? Some of that needs psychology and reading behind it. Yeah, and being coached as well. So I always made sure I had a spiritual mentor and a business mentor, or a couple of business mentors alongside. Always make myself accountable to these people to kind of make sure I'm getting the best and giving the best. So yeah, that's one of my values.
What's a spiritual mentor?
Well, I come from a Jesus background in terms of my faith. So for me, my spiritual mentor is this beautiful. She's going to marry this beautiful woman called Pauline, who I basically check in with every couple of months on where I'm doing in myself. And she has this amazing gifting to listen without judgment and then pinpoint where the blockage is in my progress. Because I always want to lead by value systems as opposed to compromising my faith or my values, and she helps me navigate all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
amazing. Because it's easy to lose sight of why we do stuff, right? I mean, it's easy to be swept away by other people's expectations. So yeah, she just helps me bring stuff back to the cornerstone. So for me, if I'm going to get out of bed and make a difference, I can only seem to ever achieve that if I have that Jesus cornerstone in my life. Otherwise, my vision and focus turns into achieving things for status or achieving things to look good with other people. Because sometimes I have to make decisions that go against my values, that go against these things, but the cornerstone is what helps me make that decision. That's just me. That's how I roll.
Well, no, fair enough.
And she helps me stay on course with that. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Everyone should have that person that helps them kind of, well, I suppose everyone who lives on a moral code and has decided on specific values should have somebody to help them navigate that. Not everyone believes in that. So.
Interesting. That's interesting though, because I've never really heard I've never really heard the term spiritual mentor.
Okay.
So I find that quite interesting.
Oh.
Because obviously business mentors, that's quite self-explanatory. But spiritual, I guess spirituality is different for different people.
Yeah. So, and this is the product of our culture, right? Is that we are quite an individualistic culture now.
Yeah.
So you design and package your own spirituality, which is fine. But I come from a church community background where growth comes from we are. However, I was in church leadership, but we, as a church, went through a deconstruction period where we decided that we were too exhausted to get up every Sunday morning and stack chairs and stand there and sing, and not have relationship with each other at the core. We would just turn up on a Sunday, stack chairs. So we deconstructed what we had and just did it. We looked at what Jesus did basically, and Jesus was about hanging out in people's houses and drinking wine and eating food. So I and a lot of other people decided that we weren't going to do church unless we could hang out in each other's houses, and I turned up with this wine. So that's like my spirit, but it's in community.
Yeah.
It's with people having your back. But we are a very individualistic culture now. We don't roll like that, which is, it is what it is, but it's not for me.
Yeah, I think everything you do is community based.
Yeah.
And it's that individualistic versus.
And that's why we have Ubuntu. So Ubuntu, the Tea Party, is about. We have it at the Queen's Hotel every month before the award. That's about inviting every single person that's been nominated and celebrating them so they can attend, and it's reinforcing the narrative of you are not inspirational in a vacuum. You didn't get to write there and go I would like to nominate myself. Somebody saw you, somebody celebrates you, so you're inspirational because we are, and that's what Ubuntu is. I am because we are.
Okay.
And that's why we don't have the term winners. I find that word really toxic in a space that's about inspirational people. So we are award recipients, because when you're receiving that award, you are representing the people that celebrates you.
Yeah.
You're amazing, you're inspirational, but you weren't doing that in a vacuum. There were people that were part of that story. Just me. That's just where I'm at. I know I'm not saying it's textbook perfect, but that's just how we are outworking that definition of inspirational.
Amazing. And second to last question, I guess.
You're gonna hate editing this.
No, this is fine. So, how is what is the nomination process like? What is that like?
So anyone can nominate anyone they consider inspirational who defines themselves as female. So that can be anyone, basically, who defines themselves a female. And you just basically go onto our website, pamodzicreatives.com, and it'll take you to a link where you can nominate somebody. Just a few questions about who they are. Ideally, you would ask them first. And there's also a number, so if you can't quite navigate writing, you can call and say who it is you nominate, and then we follow that up.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And what date is it next year?
So nominations actually close end of January, 23rd of January, and we've had some lovely stories come in. And the actual award event is the 14th of March. But before that, we've got the Ubuntu Tea Party on the first weekend of February. And before that, we've got some storytelling events that you can be part of. It's all on our website.
Amazing. So, okay, I guess what are we expecting next, and where can we find you?
So, oh my goodness me, so much going on. We have in the schools strand, we are producing our Who Inspires You storybook. So inspirational local people being celebrated. And the storybook is for Key Stage 1, so 4, 5, 6-year-olds. And it's like a book where the person imagined as a young person, that age, achieving whatever they achieve as an inspirational adult. So we've got that book coming out, and we've got dance and mental health program being rolled out at the moment. So I'm in schools doing that, and Jane Moody is an amazing partner in crime with that. She's my non-exec for schools. And then with community projects, we are exploring a listening project based around people who are frustrated with not being able to get housing or jobs, and would maybe consider that to be a migrant crisis as a result. So we're trying to do a listening project around that with a curry night. And then we've got the awards, Inspirational Women of Portsmouth Awards, that we're building towards. So we've got a storytelling night next week with 3 amazing women, and a curry. Again, I like curry, I like food. They tell their story in a really safe space. I think tickets are nearly sold out for that. Then we've got a girls' night in, similar model, but with 5 amazing women from the city. We've got an elder. I think elders are so underrated. We've got so much to learn. So we've got an elder and 4 other people who will just come and tell their story to, again, 40 plus young people. And then we've got the tea party and then the awards. And then I hide for a week after the awards to recover.
I get that.
That's what's happening.
Welcome to part 2, where we actually go out and we ask questions in the street. So yeah, I'm not going to ask. Yeah, we'll just see, and then you can stop here at any time. Right. You can comment at any moment.
So what are these questions in relation to?
You can find out.
Okay, go.
Do you think women are celebrated enough for their achievements?
No.
Are celebrated or are celebrating?
Celebrated.
They're not.
Probably
They're definitely not. No.
Well, can you expand on that?
Well, I mean, there's so much stuff that women have been like a big part of, and it's just like it just feels that we hear like me personally, I just feel like I hear more about like what men are doing in the world as opposed to what women are doing in the world. So sometimes I do actively like try and look for like stuff that that women have done that like helped like better the world, and I try and like push that to more people so that they can see it as well.
All right, well, sick. No, thanks for your views. Any particular?
Bro, I don't even know what women be getting up to these days, women or men. I don't. I kind of stay in my own bubble. Do you know what I mean? If there's something happening, then I guess good for them, and they should celebrate more. But like, I don't know what's going on either ways. I mean, if you give me like a specific field, maybe I might know. But like, I mean, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
Do you think women are celebrated for their achievements enough?
hadn't really noticed that, to be honest. What about you?
It depends like what, because like the football and that, the women football compared to the men's football is a lot different. Because they won the Euros, but you don't really hear about it. Then when the men get like quarters, you hear about it for the next 3 years.
Do you think women are celebrated enough for their achievements?
Yeah.
Definitely not previously, but it's getting better now. It's getting there. I mean, there was the whole, I can't remember the name of the person who discovered X-rays and discovered radiation, but her work was stolen by 2 men, and it's only in the past few years that it's been brought up that it was her who discovered it. And all that. So it's getting better, I think. There's definitely room for improvement. Like, women have done so much. Like, it's yeah.
Do you think women are celebrated enough for their achievements?
No. I think I should be celebrated more. Everyone buy me a drink.
Nice.
Yeah, probably not. Not as much as men, anyway.
Do you think women are celebrated enough for their achievements?
I don't think anyone's celebrated enough for their achievements, not just women.
It's an interesting take. Do you want to expand?
Well, it's just life, isn't it? I don't think people give enough and care enough for others than they should, to be honest. Women, men, whoever. I think we should celebrate everyone.
Do you think women are recognised enough for their achievements?
Sometimes. I think it's getting better a lot. Like,
Could you give us an example?
I don't really know, I'm sorry. This probably isn't very good for you guys.
This is fine,
I don't know. You put me on the spot.
No pressure.
I can't think of anything, I'm sorry.
Do you think women are celebrated enough for their achievements?
I don't really think so, because like, us men don't really understand what they have to go through, and we can't really relate to it. So we don't really like celebrate them enough, basically.
Do you think women are recognised enough for their achievements?
No.
Can you expand?
I think there's a lot of women in history, mostly, that haven't been recognised at all. There's a lot of, for example, the code written for the first moon landing was written by a woman, and most people don't know that. A lot of pharmaceutical stuff was created by women. There's a lot of historical stuff that women have done that others have taken credit for, and I think that's a really big thing. Then nowadays as well, I think definitely women are gaining more attention on like TV, media and stuff like that, but there's still a lot of stuff that's overshadowed, I think.
Okay.
Wow, there's some really sharp young people there. I love that.
So yeah.
Portsmouth's future looks bright.
Interesting. So yeah, go on. What are your thoughts then, if you were to expand?
More power to people kind of being really brave. I love what you do, Alec.
Appreciate it.
I'm just like, I'm falling in love with Portsmouth, thinking this is what's coming out of it. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because it can get really divisive when we do it as a... Do we think women are celebrated enough because men are? So I loved how the young lady was like, generally, we don't celebrate enough. And that's the one little thing I always hesitate about starting this award event, is that I don't want us to come across as angry, bra burning feminists because we've got this awards event, because I do truly believe that men are allies in the process of celebrating women, inspirational women, and it is just about creating a space, not out of anger or a sense of injustice, but just a space to celebrate on this particular instant a particular gender. As a, so I love that she was like, yeah, no, actually, people don't get celebrated enough, and there is something powerful about taking back the narrative, isn't there? Which is what I hope our award event will, our project does, is that it makes people stop and reflect on people who aren't being celebrated enough, or who've not been recognised. Like them knowing about all those science-based female, leaders not being recognised. It's quite powerful. It's lovely, isn't it? So yeah, no, I love that. We're all exhausted as well, aren't we? Like that poor guy at the first one, he was like, well, I don't know, I'm just trying to do my thing. And that's part of the challenge, isn't it? Is that we are in such a culture of instant, constant, relentless consumption of information and expectations that stopping to pause and reflect on something beyond the immediate is difficult. It's tricky. It's like I'm trying to pay the rent here. Don't stop and ask me about who inspires me. It's like I'm just trying to get from here to there, and you just So I think there's a lot of that energy around, which is understandable. But there's such power and magic when we do permission ourselves to pause and stop and celebrate, because it creates a certain kind of space that's full of life and hope. So more power to making people stop and reflect on things like that, because it does change the space. I think we go from people who are constantly like that to stop. Oh yeah, that is awesome. Oh, they are awesome. Yeah, So please don't stop what you're doing, because I love it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Do you do this with all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what we do.
So much energy put into things.
Yeah. So okay, cool. You're welcome. Well, thank you. And so how would you say then that how do I say this? How do you, apart from awarding them, apart from recognising them for their achievements with the Pamodzi and stuff like that, aside from that, how can the narrative change?
Which narrative?
Towards women and what they do and the platform they're given.
Oh, that's a loaded question. Because there's so many layers to that question that I don't have the authority to answer. But one thing I do wonder about in terms of narrative is the change that can happen from within. So I think how we posture ourselves could make a difference. Like, are we going to let ourselves be in a space where our achievement and how we measure our achievement is at the cost of someone else? Or are we going to cultivate something different?
Okay.
So I think there's a challenge / opportunity in how we could maybe try and answer the question from within and not allocate it as a responsibility for someone else to change.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's my thought. That's where I'm showing my age. It's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Don't be putting this on someone else. Like, what do you do in your personal values that will make the change? That's me showing my age.
Powerful statement. So cool. No, that's very valid. So okay, we can sort of wrap up there. So any final comments? Any last words? I
am in awe of you. I think what you're doing is incredible for the city, and I think you are a marker for what people are going to look back on as something that helped elevate the city. And I see it and I celebrate it, and I can't wait to have you recognised more for what you're doing and see that. Do you know about International Men's Day?
No.
It's an International Men's Day event the Parenting Network are doing. Come and be a part of that space and let yourself be celebrated.
Well, I'll look
I'll
into
tell you
that.
about it later.
I'll look into that. All right. Well, again, thank you, Roni, for being a guest
No
on the
worries,
show.
thank you.
And again, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Cool.
All
I'm
right.
sorry I didn't think to wear any makeup.
Ah, no, you're lovely. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you.